Welcome back to another episode of Practical Nutrition. I'm Alix.
I'm Cassie.
I'm Sarah.
And I'm Amanda.
And today is a special day on Practical Nutrition. We are switching things up. We have somebody very special with us, and he happens to not only be my husband, but my best friend since middle school.
Oh.
We're so cute. Everybody please welcome my husband, Riley.
Yay.
Welcome. He is joining us today to share his experiences and journey with nutrition, health, and exercise. He's had quite the journey. As we know, everyone has a different experience and goals with their health, whether it's decreasing their risk of chronic disease that runs in their family, adding more lean weight, losing body fat, losing weight in general. Everybody has a different journey. Today, we're going to dive into Riley's journey and kind of talk about his weight loss. To give you some background, he's 28 years old. He was born and raised in Springfield. Riley currently develops multifamily housing in the Midwest. He was a football player his whole life, playing mostly on the offensive line. He weighed roughly 310 pounds and ate at least 5,000 calories per day to maintain his needed mass for his position. He's also 6'3", so he's pretty tall. For those of you who don't know, the average starting offensive lineman in the FBS, which is what the conference is for Missouri State, is 305 pounds with a height of 6'4". And really their job is to create space for a football carrier to run by either pushing the defensive player backwards past the line of scrimmage or pushing them to the side to allow the ball carrier to move through. So you have to be really strong, have lots of mass, be able to move people around to make way for the runner to go through people. The point being, you need to be tall and strong to push people around. After college, Riley got an opportunity with the Green Bay Packers. Gross. I'm a not that your opportunity was gross, but I'm a Bears fan, so whatever, it's fine. After football, Riley wanted to make a change from his football composition to something different. He wasn't sure where that journey would take him, but he started with making a choice. After changing his mindset and setting his new goals, Riley dropped roughly 90 pounds and down to 218 pounds in around a year's time. So with that being said, and just a small introduction, it was super short, I know. We want to thank Riley for being here with us today. And let's start with some questions from our dietitians. We're just going to keep things rolling and see all the things that we can learn about Riley. And Cassie's going to start us off.
So what made you want to make a change?
Well, so I weighed 310. All my friends, I played center and guard first off on the offensive line, so we're probably the thicker, shorter guys. I weighed 305 to 310 throughout my career, and all my buddies weighed anywhere from 300 to 330, so we're fairly heavy. Obviously in college you see kids graduate and then come back. They either lost a bunch of weight and came back at 220 looking really in shape, or they got up to 350. And so I just told myself, and I saw plenty of guys over the years do it, so that's what made me want to make a change. I saw the guys who lost it and saw the guys who just gained it, and I didn't want to be the one who gained it.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, and now he comes back to Missouri State, and his teammates from them will just walk by him and not even say hi. Well, you recognize him.
I do. I walk by people because I'm from Springfield.
Yeah.
So I'll walk by people in the grocery store, and they just ignore me. Still, unless
they don't want to talk to you.
Unless they see me recently.
Yeah, you look very different. I've been pictures I've seen.
Different.
Yeah.
So.
My ID, when I would go out to get a beer or something, people thought it was a fake. And I'd have to tell them, no, it's actually me.
Yeah.
Just lost a lot of weight.
Yeah.
So where did you start? What were your initial goals?
Well, so my roommate at the time walked on to Missouri State. He lost a bunch of weight, so he probably weighed 280 and then got down to 190. And he lost it probably, I saw he did it because he quit before me, and he was done before me. And he probably didn't eat as much as he should have at the time. And so I took pieces from him and two or three other guys I saw do it, and just kind of put it together and thought maybe this would be the plan I would take. But my initial goal wasn't necessarily at 250 is probably what I started with. So that's 60 pounds. Mm-hmm. But I got down to 270, 275. And then I stalled there for a minute, because when the reality of it is, when you're pretty heavy, you don't have to do a lot to lose weight.
Right.
So I think, I still lifted every day. I didn't do a ton of cardio, and then I dropped down 270, and I just stuck there for a few weeks, and then I finally weighed myself, and I was like, geez, I'm not even dropping any weight. So then I got a little more serious, and then I hit the 250 mark, and then it just kind of kept going based off my body composition. That's kind of how I judged it. It was never a weight or a number deal for me.
Yeah, it's just where you ended up.
Yeah, pretty
That's
much.
awesome.
How did you shift nutrition into the priority spot in your life?
I think it got different as I kept going. I mean, so like from 310 to 270, I probably just ate a little bit less, but still didn't eat the best quality foods, and I could lose the weight. And then from 270 to 250, I ate better quality foods, and then also watched the amount I ate. So I tried to eat whole foods, just real food, basically. And then, but my priorities, though, I mean, get back to your question, is they changed. I mean, it was a little bit restrictive to start, and then I had to focus more on the quality of food. And then from 250 to 230, I focused on everything. I counted my macros, I did all that stuff. So, and then to make it a priority, I mean, I just had to plan accordingly. Going from 310 to 270, I mean, it wasn't hard to do. I mean, just eat a little bit less, and then going from 270 to 230, you know, I had to prepare my meals, plan ahead. Sometimes I go on road trips for work, so I pack my lunches, my breakfast. I would just make sure I didn't have any excuse to screw up, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Good.
That is cool. And you use MyFitnessPal a lot.
Yeah,
tracking all your stuff.
when I tracked my macros, I logged everything in MyFitnessPal, which I would probably recommend to anybody, because even if you just do it for a year, you don't have to do it ever again.
Yeah.
Because intuitively you kind of know, you know, what a certain food is to you, and you know how you feel because you did it for a whole year. You kind of learn your body pretty well.
Right.
So I think it was a big benefit to me.
Yeah, and we recommend that to some of our clients. I mean, it depends on the client, but if we feel like there's something that's missing and we're not figuring out what it is, we have clients to log their food to kind of figure out what's the missing piece if they're not seeing the results they want to see. And there's some people that are super numbers driven like that want to see all of that, and then there's other people that don't want anything to do with this. I feel like it depends on.
It's a big commitment. I mean, if you track all the food you eat, it's a lot of work. I mean, you got to weigh it, you got to measure it, weigh it, package it, make sure you're eating exactly what you say. I mean, it was kind of a obsession at some point, because and it gets to that point with a lot of people. And so then at the end of that, I had to kind of realize, hey, it's okay to eyeball stuff and be more intuitive about what you eat, because it will get a little hard to do. Or like you go out with your friends and they're like, hey, let's get a pizza, and you're like, I'm just gonna have my pre-packaged meal or whatever it is, and you bring it to the restaurant. So you can get over the top with it if you're not careful, that's for sure.
Which we've talked about before.
Yes, we have. We want you to be, you know, with your goals and all that, and do things that align with them. But definitely, like you said, it can get extreme and over the top. And I know you had a hard breakup with MyFitnessPal, but it's okay.
I did the premium service. I paid
Yeah,
for it.
you did.
And then I realized I was still paying for it, and so I had to cut it loose. But
Yeah.
we had a good time.
We had a good time. So whenever you were losing your weight, you kind of talked about tracking your macros and all that stuff. Can you give us a glimpse as to like what your typical day of eating looked like?
Yeah, so like I said, it kind of went in three phases from my three different weights. But like today, I guess, I just tried to eat. I kind of get close to 200 grams of protein is my ballpark. So I tried to eat enough protein. But I mean, when I was really dieting, I had eggs.
How many eggs? I'm just kidding. You don't have to do all that. I'm just teasing.
3 or 4 probably. I mean, I just eat a well-balanced breakfast. Or sometimes I'd skip breakfast. I'd eat like a later breakfast, pre-lunch. I'd have 2 lunches. They'd just be spread out like by 3 or 4 hours. But it was all like lean meat, potatoes. I mean, really each meal just consisted of some sort of lean protein, a carb. I ate a lot of fruit just because I love fruit. So I probably had fruit with every single meal just because I liked it. And then I try to eat vegetables. I don't love vegetables, but I eat them. I mean, I love certain things. I don't hate all vegetables, but
We try to mix it up.
they're a little bit harder to eat in your diet. But I guess it just varies. I mean, I just try to eat well-balanced meals and eat whole food because I always felt better. As it got further along, I focused more on probably like my gut health and digestion than I did anything. Just because I felt like if I digested easier, I just seemed to feel better. and I felt like I looked all right, so I was cool with it.
Yeah. That's kind of cool to say, like, you just kind of based it off of how you felt, you know?
Yeah.
Once you got done, like, the tracking
You can
and all
tell
that stuff.
if you eat healthy consistently and then you eat bad, you can tell how your body's supposed to feel.
Basically, yeah.
So if you do it for, a month, if you eat healthy for a month and then you go eat some bad food, you can tell, wow, I feel way worse. So
It's good negative reinforcement.
it is.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
a good negative
Yeah.
reinforcement.
And then you don't want to feel like that again, so you keep
right.
eating that way.
And
That's how I feel today.
That's
Yeah.
good. And it's a good way to change how you're motivated. So you're not fighting not wanting to eat that all the time because
Yeah.
you really don't want to.
Right.
Yeah. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's not worth it.
Can you give us a glimpse? I didn't have this question, I just came up in my head, of like a day of eating as an offensive lineman back in the day?
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
Of course I will.
I know it's better than a lot, but we'd have breakfast for sure, all of us together, and then like I'll give you like a training camp kind of day.
Yeah.
We would eat breakfast, then we go lift or something. We'd have a chocolate milk snacks after that.
Of course.
Like some sort of protein. It'd be a decent snack for you.
What was your pre-workout breakfast? I want to know more
Yeah.
details.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Oh man, it was probably a little bit of protein, like some eggs and stuff, but it'd probably be like a lot of toast and other things.
Yeah.
Just probably simple,
Yeah.
normal
Yeah.
breakfast, like
Okay.
an American breakfast,
Like an eggs, toast, bacon.
yeah, that kind of deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Then hit the field.
so we go lift, get a milk, come back, hang out for a couple hours, do meetings, then eat lunch. And you eat lunch. It's a big lunch. You weigh 300 pounds, so you eat a lot of food. So you probably have 2 plates at lunch, maybe 3, depending on how you're feeling.
Like, what would a meal be like?
Like if they had, like let's just say they had turkey, I'd probably have 3 plates, turkey on each plate, and then potatoes on each plate, and then something else on each plate. And then I'd probably get a couple cookies on my way.
Of course.
Just because you want something sweet to top them off like that. And then we'd get snacks later in the day, go practice, have a snack after that, and then we'd have dinner. Dinner's basically a bigger meal than lunch. And then after dinner, big guys always got second dinner. So you eat another dinner that you get to take on your way home, which was a bag. It was 2 sandwiches, an apple, and 2 cookies. And you eat that and you go to sleep and you do it all over again.
Yeah. I know there's times that you said that you'd have dinner and then you would also go to Sonic after, like the second dinner.
Yeah, we would. And then guys who would go on dates, we'd always give them a hard time because they go on a date and they'd be eating beforehand. And then they'd be getting ready to take their girl out to go eat dinner. Yeah. We always had 2 dinners for the most part. Yeah.
Sounds fun.
awesome.
It was fun. I don't know if I'd do it again, but it was fun.
Yeah.
So, what was your exercise regimen like after football?
So we lifted and ran in football. And even though I was heavy, we still ran like gassers and sprints and those sorts of things. So I continued lifting because I enjoy it. So I lifted probably 5 days a week, roughly. And then after I did that and didn't do any cardio for a little bit, and then I started running. I did a half marathon. And I ran up until like 8 weeks until the half marathon. I had been running for a long time, doing like 10 miles. I was feeling good, and then I just got tired of it, so I stopped running. And then I did do the half marathon and finished it. But
Yeah, and he finished it, not only we ran it together, he finished it 1 step ahead of me.
Yeah,
So he finished 1 second. He leaned forward at the last second and
That's
beat
right.
me by a second.
So I won the half marathon.
Yeah, you won.
But I still looked at that the whole thing because my goal was, because you are really strong as an ensemble. Guys squat 600 plus pounds and they can bench 450 or so pounds, give or take, on how strong you are. And I knew I wasn't going to be that strong, but I wanted to have some muscle on me. I didn't want to look bad, I guess. So that was my goal. So I kept lifting, and then I did more cardio, and then after I started running, I did more like CrossFit, like HIIT workouts, and then lifted, and then that's kind of what I do today. I run with Alix a little bit, and then I do some cardio, like HIIT workouts, and I still lift 5 days a week.
Okay. Did you incorporate those numbers into MyFitnessPal as well?
I didn't. I never tracked my activities.
Yeah.
I did my own programming for a while because I've worked out for, including high school, 9 years. So I kind of did our college programming more on the weight side, and I just did it myself. And then now I pay for it because I get to the gym after work and I'm too lazy to even decide what to do. So I'd recommend anybody to do that.
I like someone telling me what to do.
Yeah.
All you gotta do is walk in.
If it's not written down, I'll just go in. I'll do like 5 things and I'll throw it together right before I walk in the door, and it's probably bad. So it's best I do it that way.
Yeah. Okay.
So I know you talk about MyFitnessPal, but was there anything else that helped you stay on track, whether it be exercise, motivation, nutrition?
Did I use any other services? I don't think I did. MyFitnessPal, I mean, I got a little competitive in like doing some CrossFit stuff.
Yeah, you did some competitions and
I mean,
stuff.
I did one. It was the HOA one in Springfield, but I probably wasn't any good at it. But I mean, stuff like that kind of kept.
Give yourself some credit.
So stuff like that kind of keeps you going a little bit. Little benchmarks, like the half marathon was a benchmark, even though I stopped running a month or 2 beforehand, and it sucked when I did it. It made me run up until that point, and then the CrossFit stuff, and then just overall, I guess really just not being. I've never been really satisfied. Like in football, I was never satisfied with how much I lived, and then now it's just like I never feel like I've made it. So, but I guess the fact is you never do. I mean, you're gonna have to work out until you die if you want to stay in shape. So. That's just, it is what it is. So, but I enjoy it too. So, I mean, you do stuff enough, you just enjoy it. So.
Right.
Yeah. And you mentioned benchmarks. So, would you say like small goals like that helped you kind of stay on track?
I mean, so I had some friends that did it the numbers way, where they benchmarked the number and they hit a number, they hit a new number. But I think that there's a negative to that, at least what I saw. I'm sure you guys know better than I do. But the guys who chased the number probably didn't have the best overall body composition that the people who just did it more naturally. And when I mean more naturally, they just, they weren't focused on getting 230 from 250. They were just focused on
Like trusting the process.
they were focused on, obviously you need to lose pounds at some point because you're eating too much. But if you just focus on eating good food, and working out correctly, because I think sometimes when the people chase a number, they're doing things that probably that you guys wouldn't advise, being, like skipping meals and those sorts of things, which overall, hurt their body composition at the end of the day.
Right.
They didn't retain as much muscle and that sort of thing.
Right. Yeah. And they do it like almost anything to just be a certain number. But once you get there, what's the
on the scale?
Yeah. What's the goal? I mean, So I like that you.
Well, and then we had some guys who did chase the number, and the odds of them rebounding back are a little bit higher than the guys who didn't, because they probably did it the shorter way, which if you skip meals and that sort of thing, you can get there, but you also revert back to where you came from, I think, a little bit easier. So,
how sustainable and realistic is that? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So what was the most difficult part of your journey?
I don't know if this will be a unique answer or not, but you surround yourself with certain friends and family, and they get used to you doing stuff a certain way. And that's not something I expected when you make a shift to lose weight. And I mean, because it's a big shift to drop a significant amount of weight, whether it's 50, 100 pounds or 25 pounds. And you'll get a little pushback from people that are close to you. Not because they, want you to be heavy necessarily, but just because I think sometimes people are insecure about themselves in certain ways, and they show that by criticizing other people. And, so I think that one, and I'm not saying that it was anybody in my family in particular, but you'll get pushback from your friends and people that are close to you, inevitably, I'm sure. And that was something I didn't expect. And at some point, you just need to, depending on who you're around, you either need to change your friend group or just not care and just stay on your own path and do what you need to do. But that was probably the toughest part, I think.
That's very wise.
Yeah, because finding balance is definitely important, but also like somebody being like, why don't you just eat the pizza, or why don't you just get the ice cream?
And it's not, if you look at it as a one-off meal, eating pizza, it's not a problem with that.
Correct.
You can do all those things, but depending on your lifestyle and who you're around and how much you go out, you do have to make sacrifices ultimately to achieve your goal. And so some people won't get that, and you'll get some pushback. So I think if you're doing it, that's what you need to be prepared for, and just know, you can explain to those people. And sometimes it's easier just to tell them, just lie to them, say you don't feel well. I mean, if you get someone who gives you a lot of pushback, I mean, I'm not telling anyone they should lie, but I mean, sometimes it's easier for a couple people that just don't get it or don't get what you're doing. But typically it's fine. You explain to someone what your goals are, and they come around to it.
Yeah. And you said that was probably one of the hardest parts. Is there something that was a surprise to you, or is that kind of the same answer?
I think it's a similar answer. That was surprising. I think I was a little surprised when I weighed myself I went to my dad's house and I weighed 270, and I was like, geez, I hadn't lost a pound in 2 weeks. That was surprising to me. And then, because I
did all the things, I don't get it.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a pretty smooth sailing deal, and it was a little bit harder probably than I thought, but then once I took the step and got a little bit more serious, it went pretty smooth though. But you do have to commit to it.
Yeah, and I like that, just that, because we talked about it in the podcast as well, just when you lose weight, it gets harder, and a lot of times people expect for it to be easy, or the same things that they did at the beginning to continue working as well. And I also like that you broke it up, and you weren't just, okay, I'm going to eat, all of the right foods and the correct amounts and track everything from the very beginning. That might have helped you be successful too. You started off with, okay, I'm just going to eat less, and so that
small
that kind
things.
Of thing. Yes.
Yeah.
And so you were moving forward.
That's probably a better way to put it. I mean, if I would have gone from 310 and said, I'm going to track everything in my fitness pal, I probably would have failed.
Right.
In a fast way too. So.
Yeah, so we see a lot of success with our clients and with that kind of thing, and and everybody's journey is a little different, but people that do, just take that little step forward and build on that, which it sounds like you did a really good job of that. So, and then looking at habits, that's the next question, because that does help build habits. So, are there habits that you built in the journey that still work for you, and has anything changed?
Yeah, I think. The habits of staying prepared and making your meals. Like I said, I go on road trips for work, so if I know that I'm going to be in a situation where I'm going to have to eat out, and maybe sometimes I don't want to, it's like a time thing. I mean, now I take pretty efficient road trips because I just eat while I drive. It's probably not
smart, though.
But
it's a good life skill, though.
Let's be real.
Driving children.
This is a realistic podcast, people. Okay, you've eaten and driven. Let's be real.
But I mean, habits are. I've always been a morning person, but I used to wake up earlier even, and then work out, eat. I mean, the best habit that's probably just turned into what I talked about, feeling good, is I just started eating whole foods. I mean, that's the best thing you can do, I think, because and then I can tell sometimes. I mean, Alix and I'll do it. I mean, I could probably do it more than she does, but I'll have a bunch of ice cream one night, or I'll have pizza and ice cream and maybe something else. But and then I'll feel terrible for like the next 2 days, and then I tell myself, I don't know why I did that, but I think just building habits of eating good foods that are natural, because then you'll just feel 10 times better, and then you'll wonder why you ate the way you did in the first place.
And that gives you a different motivation besides just the scale number or your percent, as well as how you feel. I think that's great.
Yeah, definitely. So do you cook the food at home, or how does that work?
How
are these meals prepared?
You say that.
I love that. That was good.
That's a fun question, Alix.
And moving on. I'm just kidding.
Before Alix and I got married, I was single, and when I was single, I made all my food. So I would take sweet potatoes. I was like more of a production cook. I took like 10 sweet potatoes. I chopped them all up. I put them on a pan of tinfoil, and I'd roast them. And then I would cook like 15 chicken breasts. And then, and then I'd have fruit typically, and then some sort of vegetable. And I would just eat that every meal that whole week, except for dinner. Dinner I'd change up, and I'd have like some sort of red meat or something, rice and something else. But that's how I did cook. And then Alix was in SLU when we started dating in St. Louis, and I cooked the same way then. And then finally, when we got married, now I do a little bit less cooking. But
because I can't have chicken and sweet potatoes for every meal. I gotta switch it up.
See, and I think that's important for the audience to know. when you do get married, or if you're already married and your wife doesn't want everything you want, then you have to compromise. So that's what we did. I compromise on what I eat, and then she helps cook more of the food. So
Yeah, add variety. You like more veggies now.
yeah, it's probably better for me.
Yeah, it's good.
But
It's good.
yeah.
It's funny.
Okay, back to habits. We talked
Yes.
about like your nutrition habits and how those have kind of warped a little bit. What about your exercise habits?
So I mean, recently I work out in the afternoons for the most part. I've been running sometimes in the mornings with Alix, but I've always been I've always worked out. I typically lift on Monday, Tuesday, and then do some cardio on Wednesday, and then I lift on Thursday, Friday, and then on Saturday it's kind of like a freebie day. The programming I have now, I do some stuff on Saturdays, but typically if I feel like going to the gym and doing some arms or something small that doesn't really do anything, and then running or something like that, I just pick whatever I want to do. I just do something active. On the programming I do now, I mean, you can do a walk, bike ride, or whatever, but typically we run or I go lift or something like that. And I just carried that forward because when in college, that's what we did every week. We lifted 4 to 5 times a week, and so I just carried it forward. I just told myself I wouldn't stop because I saw a lot of guys stop lifting, and then they just get skinny, and that's what they are. And I'm not thinking skinny guys or anything, but I want to retain some muscle, so that's why I kept doing it the way I did.
Yeah, which I think is awesome. So, what advice would you give to somebody wanting to start a journey with their health after going through what you've kind of gone through?
I think the first advice I'd give is to look and see if you know anyone who's done it. What I did was I saw 4 or 5 guys. I was fortunate because I saw a lot of guys do it because they were already heavy, so they either gained weight or lost weight. But so between the 30 guys I knew, I picked like 5 or 6 and picked the things I liked and disliked from each case, and then kind of approached it that way. I thought that was pretty helpful to me because, I mean, I saw how they were and how happy they were kind of on the approach they took, and I think piecing the parts together that I thought were more, I guess, sustainable, worked the best, and achieved your goals the right way is the way I approached it. So, I mean, if I were giving advice to somebody, I'd say, see if you can find a couple of cases out there, people who did it, and maybe what were the positives and negatives of how they did it, and then try and formulate a plan that's going to work for you. I mean, it's going to be different for everybody, I think, based off your lifestyle, what your job is, how much time you have, that sort of thing. But, I mean, and then the biggest piece of advice I give be, plan accordingly. If you have to go out of town for 4 days and you're going to Fargo, North Dakota or something, I mean, I don't know, and there's not anywhere but fast food. I'm just kidding. I've been to Fargo, we played North Dakota State, and there's nothing there. But if you're going somewhere where you're limited food options, I mean, bring food with you, just plan accordingly, know what your future self would want, and kind of move backwards and try to formulate a plan that's going to work best so you don't look yourself in the mirror a week later and say, oh, I'll do it next week, or I'll do it the next week.
Yeah, there's always Monday, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Making those changes. And it sounds like small changes, building those habits, figuring out where you're at and what's going to work well for you, because there's not like a one-size-fits-all, kind of like what you mentioned.
Yeah, and I think you have the internet nowadays, too. I mean, and
dietitians.
Yeah, well, no, I'm not talking about that, but definitely, I mean, a dietitian, well, I mean, I was fortunate because I'm married to a dietitian.
Yeah.
So I got some good advice, but, go online and see what other people have done if you don't know anyone personally. Mm-hmm. And then, I mean, call someone like you guys to get some expert advice, because, I mean, there's certain things on the internet that you should not do, definitely. There's probably more not to do than you should do, mm-hmm. but, I mean, you can at least see some things and some different approaches to try, and that'd be a decent way to approach it.
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. Anything else to add? Anybody? Okay. Well, that wraps it up for us today with this episode of Practical Nutrition. If you have any other questions for Riley or any of us, please let us know. Reach out on social media, email us, anything like that. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
That was
That was
awesome
fun.
to hear about that, and you're really an inspiration, and I'm really proud to be your wife and help you reach whatever goals you want to achieve. And one last thing, it's our 1 year anniversary of Practical Nutrition.
Yes, it is.
So it's been 1 year that we've been running Practical Nutrition. So if you have topics or anything like that, we forgot to wear our party hats, but we wanted to mention that it has been a year. So that's exciting for us.
Thank you for keeping us alive.
Yes, thank you. We appreciate it. So this was another episode of Practical Nutrition. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Bye guys.